Picture sitting in a solemn funeral service. The tension is heavy, and out of nowhere, you feel a sudden, intense urge to burst into laughter. Psychologists categorize this as an incongruous emotional display. It is a documented phenomenon where the brain produces a visible reaction that seems to contradict the external environment. To see how this works in practice, we look to Stanley Milgram's 1960s obedience experiments. Milgram ordered subjects to deliver increasingly powerful electric shocks to a stranger in another room every time they answered a question incorrectly. The shocks were fake, but the subjects believed they were real. As the victim's screams grew louder and the subjects felt more conflicted, many began to laugh nervously at the violence. Milgram recorded this as a sign of extreme internal tension. This behavior reveals that laughter functions as a physical reflex. It is a tool used by the brain to neutralize overwhelming stress and resolve cognitive confusion when the situation becomes too much to handle. Neuroscientist V.S. Ramachandran traces this reflex to the early stages of human development. He proposes that laughter evolved as a biological false alarm signal. In a primitive environment, if a potential threat turned out to be harmless, a sudden laugh communicated, "We are safe," to the tribe. This physical act immediately signaled the nervous system to switch off its high alert state. When trapped in a negative emotional state today, the brain still forcefully deploys this ancient reflex. It triggers a physiological state of relief to help the individual recover their composure. This response is particularly prevalent in high-stakes environments, such as those navigated by ICU nurses, crime scene investigators, and firefighters. Researchers use terror management theory to analyze the specific psychological burden placed on these professionals. Facing human suffering and their own mortality on a daily basis creates a constant state of existential dread that must be managed to avoid burnout. These workers utilize dark or gallows humor as a psychological buffer. It is a survival mechanism that provides the emotional distance necessary to function despite continuous exposure to death. The benign violation hypothesis provides a mechanical framework for this process. It suggests that for something to be funny, the brain must identify two conflicting conditions simultaneously. First, a violation must occur. This is any event that alters our worldview or breaks a social norm, such as a severe injury or the sudden onset of grief. For humor to trigger, that violation must simultaneously be appraised as benign. This happens if the threat feels neutralized, or if the person observing it is psychologically distant from the trauma. Professionals in crisis-centered fields learn to distance themselves emotionally to force this benign appraisal. This detachment allows them to categorize horrific scenes as violations they can mentally handle. Who is an acceptable target of a joke follows an unwritten moral code. If this humor becomes derogatory, it risks clouding a provider's judgment and compromising the quality of patient care. There are also instances where inappropriate laughter is entirely physical. This is known as pseudobulbar affect, or PBA. PBA is a neurological short circuit, frequently called emotional incontinence, caused by brain injury or disease. It triggers intense episodes of laughing or crying that are completely unrelated to the person's actual mood. While incongruous laughter is often a form of psychological armor, it can also serve as a symptom of a disrupted neurological system or biased medical practices. If nervous laughter disrupts your personal life, you can consciously reroute your brain's reflexive response. Strategies like cognitive behavioral therapy and mindfulness help address the underlying anxiety. In immediate situations, simple physical distractions like counting backward or deep breathing can relax the nervous system before a laugh occurs. This laughter remains a deeply